They worshipped me once, sang my name by moonlight. But humans' greed poisoned their hearts. They stole, betrayed, and thought I'd forget. Fools! Rivers don't forget. Now I'll drink their blood. Noth.
Long ago, in the heart of ancient asterisk a kingdom carved from red earth and ancient trees, people whispered of the river not just as water, but as a living spirit, a goddess who could bless or destroy. Her name was Alichi, the river goddess. They said her eyes were silver like lightning caught in a storm, and her tail, long and serpentine, could coil around mountains if she so desired. She was beauty. She was fury. She was memory. And every 10 years, she demanded a sacrifice. Not just any soul, but one untouched by sin. One whose heart was clean. A soul to protect the land from drought, disease, and death. It began, as it always did, with the dance of the calabashes. At the heart of Okprom village, under the watchful gaze of the ancestors and the looming presence of the great Iroko tree, the villagers gathered in silence. The festival of atonement came once every 10 years. It was a ritual older than language, older than the village itself, a desperate plea to keep the river calm and the goddess Alichi from unleashing her wrath. Young men and women all between the ages of 17 and 25, stood in a circle, eyes lowered, chests rising and falling like frightened animals. They wore nothing but white wrappers and strings of cowries across their chest. Each held a calabash filled with palm oil, feathers, and water from the sacred stream. The high priest, Ezemo Oranta, now frail and almost blind, raised his voice above the hushed crowd. May the river goddess speak through the calabashes. May she choose who shall walk the waters tonight. He struck a wooden gong, and the calabashes began to tremble in the hands of the chosen. One by one, the contents of each calabash remained still until Yuzoki's. His calabash shattered in his hands with a loud crack, sending a spray of oil and feathers into the air. A gasp swept through the crowd. Children clutched their mothers. Women covered their mouths. Some began to wail softly. Azuka stumbled forward, eyes wide in disbelief. No. No, the gods are wrong. He's the priest's son. He's not meant to. The priest stepped back, his face twisted in grief. But it was Yuzoki's expression that pierced the heart of everyone present, not fear. Not shock. Resignation. As though he had seen this moment in a dream and lived with it for years. Azuka ran to him, falling to her knees, gripping his wrapper tightly. We can go. Now. This is madness. You are not a lamb. Yuzoki knelt beside her, brushing her tears away. I was born in the temple. My life has always belonged to the river, Azuka. No, she screamed, pounding his chest. Your life is mine. You said we would leave this place. You said you loved me. The priest turned his face away, unable to watch his son's quiet surrender. Yuzoki's mother, a quiet woman named Neka, let out a deep, guttural wail that sent birds scattering from the trees. Women gathered around her as she collapsed. The villagers looked on, torn between reverence and helplessness. A young man had just been sentenced to death by a goddess they could not see, only feel. And no one could stop it. That night, the sacred drum was beaten low and slow, like a heartbeat in mourning. The procession would begin in 2 market days. Yuzoki was the son of the priest Izenia, born into sacred duty, raised in the silence of rituals, chants, and ancient scrolls. But despite the divine purpose etched into his life, Yuzoki carried a secret, one that bloomed in the hidden spaces of the temple courtyard, far from watchful eyes. He was in love with Azuka, his foster sister. Azuka had been taken in as an orphan, raised with love but never fully accepted by the priesthood. She was wild, free, often barefoot, and danced in the rain. Her skin was golden brown like honeyed yam peel. Her laughter was the only thing that could make Yuzoki forget the weight of destiny. One night, beneath the Udola tree where their love first took root, Azuka clutched his hand tightly, her voice low and trembling. "Let's go, Yuzoki," she said. "To the north, beyond the hills. We can live together." Yuzoki turned to her slowly. Moonlight carved deep shadows on his face. His eyes, so young, yet so old, were filled with sorrow. "If I run, the river will take another. Perhaps a child. Perhaps you," he whispered. She blinked back tears. "But I love you." His voice cracked. "And I love you. But love is not enough, not when the river is watching." Azuka pulled away, chest heaving. "Then tell them you're afraid. Tell them you won't go." Yuzoki hesitated. I may not have to." That was the first time she noticed the flicker of something dark in his eyes. Something unspoken. What she didn't know was that someone else had already offered him a different path. Deep in the royal palace, hidden behind walls hung with silks and gold thread, Queen Diani watched the river from her high window. She had grown up watching her people kneel to the river. Die for it. Fear it. But Diani feared nothing. She was tall, regal, and dangerous, with eyes like onyx and a voice that wrapped around you like smoke. When she summoned Yuzoki to her chambers, he came in silence. "I know your fate, boy," she said, pouring palm wine into a golden cup. "And I know how heavy it is." Yuzoki said nothing. "I also know you love a girl. And love makes men foolish." He looked up, startled. She smiled. "Yes. I see everything. And I offer you a way out." He leaned in, voice barely a breath. "How?" Her tone hardened. "There's a stone in the shrine. The Obiti stone. Blue as the deepest ocean. Take it. Bring it to me. And I will crown you king. You will warm my bed and you will be free from this fate of death." Yuzoki's heart pounded. "That stone, it is the goddess's heart." "No," she said coldly. "It is power. The only power that has ever mattered in this land." For 3 nights, Yuzoki could not sleep. He was lost in thought. "I don't want to die, but it will also be a betrayal to Azuka for me to steal from the shrine and also marry the queen. Should I run away with Azuka and remain an outcast just because of love, or should I do as the queen said and be free from death and enjoy wealth and power?" He watched Azuka from afar. He looked at the river. He looked at the sky. And finally, he chose. The night was quiet, unnaturally so. Even the crickets held their breath as Yuzoki entered the shrine barefoot, sweat beading down his spine. The stone glowed on the altar, pulsing like a heartbeat. He reached out. The moment his fingers brushed it, the torches blew out. The water in the nearby pots boiled. And far beneath the earth, Alichi opened her eyes. By dawn, chaos gripped Opera. A child drowned mysteriously in shallow water. The fish floated dead. The yam fields wilted. The village goats began birthing stillborns. The people gathered. The old priest, Oranta, blind but wise, stood at the riverbank, holding his staff like it held the world together. "The river is angry," he said. "The sacrifice has failed." Azuka stood in the crowd, a hand pressed to her chest, her breath stolen. She ran to the shrine. The stone was gone. Yuzoki was gone. There was an announcement from the village town crier stating that the queen was getting married to Yuzoki that day. The villagers was in shock. Some villagers whispered, "How can this be? How can the queen marry a boy young enough to be her son? What happens to us at the wrath of the sea goddess has fallen upon our village." Azuka walked towards the village river that night. The same night Yuzoki was crowned king and married the queen. Her tears fell freely as she stumbled toward the river that night. "Alichi," she whispered, kneeling at the edge. "Forgive us. I loved him. I didn't know." The river bubbled. Then parted. And from its depth, Alichi rose, her silver eyes fixed on Azuka, her fond mouth curved in a bitter smile. Love, the goddess hissed. You speak of love, child of men. He spat on love. He spat on me. Now, I will take back everything. At the palace, Yuzoki stood in the palace hall, crowned king. Queen Diani beside him, smiling like a snake in sunlight. The people cheered, but he heard only the beating of his own guilt. His nights were haunted. He could no longer remember Azuka's voice. He couldn't taste food. His reflection twisted. And every night, a whisper slithered into his ears. You stole from me, now I will steal you. Azuka had tried going to the palace to speak to him, but anytime she went she was not allowed in by the palace guards. Her eyes filled with pain, heartbreak and betrayal. He will speak to her from the palace balcony. The gods are dead, he snapped. Bow to me, or leave. Azuka will leave each time with a face filled with tears. The village was in famine, but the queen did not care. Instead she sent out her guards to collect the little the villagers had. People were dying of hunger, diseases with no remedy for a solution. Yuzoki's father the priest and his mother was well taken care of. They did not lack anything, even though they were not in support of the decision their son took, but at least they were happy he was alive and was not sacrificed to the river goddess. Azuka could not take it anymore. She was heartbroken and in deep pain. At dawn, she turned to the river again. But this time, she came not as a girl in love. She came to make a pact. He shouted, River goddess. Take my love, she said. Take my heart. I have no use for it. Alichi watched her in silence. Then, slowly, the river goddess emerged from the water and reached out, and placed a hand on her forehead. The river goddess spoke, Is this what you want, chill? Azuka replied, Yes. In a surge of water and wind, Azuka's body transformed. Her eyes turned silver. Her voice deepened. Her skin shimmered. She was no longer just Azuka. She was Alichi's vessel. That night, a storm rolled over Okpram. Thunder cracked the skies open. Azuka walked into the palace barefoot. Her steps echoed through the marble hall. Her eyes glowed like moons. Yuzoki sat on his throne. When he saw her, he laughed. What now? My river girl has come back to weep. But the water behind her moved. It slithered up the walls. It whispered. And from her lips came a voice layered with thunder. You kissed me with lies. You crowned yourself with stolen blood. Now drown in what you feared. The floor split. A massive serpent of water burst through the tiles, calling around Yuzoki, dragging him screaming through the ground. Queen Diani ran. She reached her royal bath, panting. But as she stepped in, the water turned dark. Her body froze. And in silence, she sank. The next morning, the villagers stood at the riverbank. The water was clear again. The sky calm. The sickness has disappeared. The trees became green again and the crops had begun to flourish. But Azuka was gone. Some say she became part of the river. Others say she walks among the trees, watching, judging. And if you ever find yourself by the river's edge, speaking love into the wind, be careful. Because the river remembers. And so does she.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to stay connected by leaving your thoughts in the comments, giving the video a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you're the first to know when a new content drops. We appreciate your support and look forward to seeing you in the next video.